Welcome everyone to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore. I'm happy to see you all here tonight in wherever you're watching from. Tonight we are broadcasting live on Facebook, Bill of Rights Network, the Paranormal Pride page, LinkedIn, YouTube for the Paranormal for Denise Pridemore, Bill of Rights Network. I am also on Twitch for Denise Pridemore and Bill of Rights Network and Twitter. So check them out, and hopefully we don't have any issues like we did last week where anybody's watching from my own page because I did not share there. So I would like to welcome you all, and tonight I want to introduce you to my guest, Tim Scullion. He is a paranormal photographer and based out of Williamsburg, Virginia. If you've never been to Williamsburg, it's a place I suggest that you go. It's historically speaking, it's very relevant, but it's very pretty. There's also a couple amusement parks there, things like that. But check it out. I'd say you won't be disappointed, and it's not too far from the beach either. So I'd like to have you guys meet Tim. Welcome, Tim.
How are you, Denise? Nice to be on your show.
Did I say your name right?
Scullion.
Scullion. Okay. Wanted to make sure because I know how it looks, and I can butcher anybody's name.
Sure.
I mean, I'm Dennis at any fast food restaurant. So it's something that's going on these days, or can't say anything right. So how did you get involved with the paranormal period and then paranormal photography?
Well, initially I have to say that I was a skeptic, and I was doing daytime historical tours here in Colonial Williamsburg as a tour guide. And the company that I worked for said, "Hey, Tim, you're doing a great job. Would you like to do ghost tours too?" No. And they said, "It's great fun and you make extra money." And I didn't believe the great fun, but I needed the extra money. So, okay. So I memorized the whole script. There's about 10 stories that I had to tell along the tour. Took about an hour, and I didn't believe any of them. So about 2.5 weeks into it, I had a woman, well, I should say a group of people were taking photos of the place that I was talking about. But one woman only captured a full-bodied apparition of a ghost. And I thought it was strange, too, that out of all the people that have been taking photographs, she's the only one. Mm-hmm. But she held up that phone. She marched it right over under my nose and said, "Look what I got." And I couldn't believe it. I tell you what, it turned the skeptic into a believer just like that. And so I had been looking at the building that I was talking about, and I didn't see anything with the naked eye. And yet the camera was able to pick up something, and only one camera out of 5 or 6. So that got me wondering. A few more times the rest of the summer, I was giving tours, and other people captured things, not as good as that initial full-bodied apparition, but they usually captured faces in the windows. Mm-hmm. And so by the end of the summer, not only am I a full-on believer in ghosts, I decided that I was going to take professional equipment down to Colonial Williamsburg and see if I could get better photos than what these people were getting. And so I went to all the places that I had seen my people on my tour capture ghosts with professional equipment. And the first time out was a miserable failure. I did not get one ghost. But about 6.5 weeks later, I got the desire to give it another stab, and that night at the Bruton Parish Church, I captured my first apparition. And once I had that, I wanted more. And from there, one photo turned into 100, turned into 1,000, turned into 10,000. And here's the rub with that. When I had over 10,000 photographs, I only had about 280 that were good ghost photos. The rest were just being deleted. Right. So it's not like I'm going out and every photo that I take, I'm getting a ghost. No, that's not it. However, what I was doing was taking notes about the, let's say, the circumstances, the weather conditions, the moon phases, things like that, to see what was the optimum time to go out and take photos of ghosts. So I've been able to refine that, and I've gotten better at taking ghost photos. And a couple years later, let's see, this is 2012 when I started this. And a couple years later, I had all of those photos, and my friends and family said, "Hey, Tim, you should publish a book." There are several books out there about the ghosts of Williamsburg, but nobody's got what you have. So I put out a few queries, and I got a 3-book deal with Schiffer Publishing, and I've been pretty much addicted to taking paranormal photos ever since.
Well, I see in your bio that I couldn't put it all out there because they only allowed me 5,000 characters. But the Red Garter in Williams, Arizona, I had to look at my husband because I made him walk me down there, because I will tell you, one of my favorite places to eat is Pine Country Restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
Pie, everybody, pie as big as your head, I swear. And any pie you want. We stop there every trip to Vegas because we drive from Kansas City to Vegas. So needless to say, we go by there every trip. We walk by there. I haven't been able. Let's go. I'm not willing to pay for a room that doesn't have a bathroom. I'm sorry.
Sure.
So, but there's another hotel on the other side of. So on that road where the Red Garter is, on the next road behind.
Mm-hmm.
You know which hotel I'm talking about? That other old one back there?
I believe so.
Did you ever check that out?
No, I did not. Specifically, I had checked out the Red Garter, and there was a theater that I had seen stories about that was on that same street that you're talking about. Mm-hmm. And that was where I took some more photos, and I was able to capture some ghosts there. But you tell me you were at the Red Garter. Did you happen to see that big photo on the wall that has the ghost in it from the 1930s?
They were closed. They wouldn't let you in because of the COVID. I
see.
So the one time that we had a chance to actually go in, we couldn't because of COVID. The other time it was off season. And then, of course, unless you've got a reservation to rent the place out, you're not getting in.
Sure.
So, but it is what it is. I mean, I like Williams. We stop there every trip. I mean, we've got something. I got some spirits in a jar. I'm going to tell you guys this. I got spirits in a jar. I got some prickly pear vodka from the Grand Canyon Brewery or Distillery and Brewery right there. I bring back something from every trip. Thing is, I haven't been able to drink any of that, but yeah, we check it out every time we go. Something in Williams, we check out something. So
what was interesting for me when I went there was that if you go into the, it's kind of a cafe, Grand Canyon Cafe, I believe is the name of it.
Yeah.
And you walk into it, and on the left, you'll see a photo, I believe from the 1930s. It's been a couple years. And on the photo is the owner and his wife and a couple other people. But in the background, and the waitress told me this, you could see a woman leaning on something, and they say that woman is a prostitute that was no longer alive, and she appeared in that photograph.
Oh, wow.
And so I was able to get quite a few photographs of ghosts there at the Red Garter. And I can't say for definite sure, but one of the photos kind of looks like the owner. And another one kind of looks like the same ghost that appeared in that photo from the 1930s.
Well, next time we go that way, we'll make sure that we go in and check that out. If they're open, of course. But,
sure.
My big thing is I have to stop for pie. So if I'm going to stop for pie, I can walk half a block down to the Red Garter.
Sure.
So, in fact, the first time we stopped there, I had told Ron, I go, there's a haunted hotel here. And he goes, how do you know that? I said, it was on Ghost Adventures. And he goes, when? And he forgot all about it. And then when I reminded him, he was like, oh, now I remember. So, like I said, I'm looking at all your stuff. I used to have family in Richmond as well. But like I said, Williamsburg, you were talking about your tour, and there's a pub, old bar, wooden floors, wooden tables, of course. I don't remember what it's called, but I had spirits that I saw there. This was, like I said, back in 1998. I saw them, and nobody else saw them that was with me. I didn't take pictures because I wasn't looking for that. It just the spirit. She was it had been a bar or a pub forever.
Okay.
And I know you probably know which one I'm talking about, but
are you talking about in Colonial Williamsburg?
In Colonial Williamsburg.
Because there are 4 places that are technically, they call them taverns.
Yeah.
And there are 4 places that you could eat at that time. Now they've closed down 2 since the COVID epidemic. So I could throw you the names and perhaps you might recognize the names. One of them is Tunings. Another one is Shields. Another is King's Arms.
King's Arms.
King's Arms. Okay.
So, like I said, that was back in 98. I also do you have any spirit photography from William and Mary?
Absolutely. That place is full of spirits.
Yes, I know. It was weird. I mean, the poor little girl. So I was an adult that, I won the trip from college. And so I was an adult. I already had 3 kids, so for me, it was like a getaway. My little roommate was from North Las Vegas and she was 18. And she couldn't sleep at night because of the spirits in there, in our room, and the bugs. I mean, we had issues with that. We had to sleep with the lights on for her, but it was amazing the range of spirits that I saw there. Not just going back to, was it 1793 or something like that, or even longer? When was William and Mary founded?
The building, the main building, it's called the Wren Building, which is also the oldest building. The building was started in 1695.
Okay.
And it was basically finished about 1700.
So, David Glidden has a question for you. Since Tim is a musician, my suggestion is if he's ever taken a guitar in and serenaded the spirits at a location.
No, I haven't, but I did live at a haunted place, and unfortunately that place burnt down while I was in there.
Oh, that's not good.
But every time that I would get out my guitar and play, I had the Cox security system, and it was an infrared light camera that was aimed at the front door, and I could see over at the tiny little screen that monitored that camera when I would play music, and I would see all kinds of activity on that screen. Sometimes it would be just orbs, and other times it would be pixelated figures of usually 2 people walking down the hallway or walking up the steps.
Wow. Gary asks, what is the best way to catch spirits in photos?
Well, before I would have said that you need to use a full spectrum camera. And that's pretty much the best piece of equipment that I've had in the past. That said, I can also say that the latest models of the iPhones and Samsung and some of the others, they have extremely good night photography. And I've had quite a bit of luck capturing spirits just with this iPhone that I'm using right now. You just have to go out when the conditions are right. And when we're talking about conditions, full moon is a great time to try to capture spirits, particularly if the moon is out. And I always wondered about that. Why full moon? And I just recently found out that there were a couple of Italian astronomers, and they were taking photos of the moon with gamma ray photography.
Right.
And what they discovered was that the gamma ray emitted from the moon made it, in their photos, brighter than the sun.
Wow.
And so gamma ray is a high energy type of electromagnetic radiation. And I think that perhaps that has something to do with the fact that ghosts are able to materialize better when there is a full moon out. Other times it's thunderstorms, before, during, and after.
We've seen that. Steve asks, what photo have you taken that's the most convincing photo? Well, you sent me some photos. So you guys know, Tim was supposed to be on my show a year ago, June 14th. So I've had to reschedule him multiple times. So I have these pictures that he sent me. So I'm going to share these with you guys and let you see some of the photos that he's taken. So here's one. Hopefully you can see it well.
And that one was just with an iPhone.
And it does look like colonial. That's in Williamsburg, isn't it?
Yep.
Okay. And then
In front of a house?
Oh, that's
No.
Yeah, there's a house here and then the fence. And then there's this one. Where was this one taken?
This one was at the post office, and again, that was just with an iPhone too. That one was at it's a small brick house. Mary, I can't remember her last name, but what was interesting about that house was that there were multiple spirits there because we believe that there were several murders there that happened.
Okay, so that says it's the Stith house.
Stith, yes. Okay. Mary Stith was a musician. She taught music in this small little brick house off the main street of Williamsburg, and she did not like the idea of slavery. And so not only did she free her slaves, but she also willed all of her property to them when she died. And the story is that these people, the slaves that were freed after they received the property, that they were supposed to have run off. But eventually they would find, now I'm talking Colonial Williamsburg, the archaeologists, they would find in the backyard quite a few bodies buried back along the fence. And they don't like to admit it, but a lot of people that work in Colonial Williamsburg believe that they actually killed those slaves because they had gotten Mary Stith's money, and they probably took the money and the property.
Okay, that's not good. So is there a spirit in here?
Yes. So that photo is the whole photo that I took, and you showed just a few photos ago the spirit that was in that bay window. That's the post office. That one right there. Yes.
Okay.
That's the image that is in that whole photo right there.
Okay. And then
that's the whole image of the very first photo that you showed. And if you look on the right, you could see the ghost walking down the street. All right, this one has a really interesting backstory to it. My friend, he's a member of a hunt club, and it's about 30 or 40 minutes outside of Williamsburg. And because he had seen a lady in white when he stayed there a few times, he asked me to come out and photograph it. And I was kind of reluctant to go out there because the place does not have any interesting stories, you know, no compelling types of either paranormal stories or historical stories that would make me want to be able to write up anything about this place. But he bugged me enough that I finally went out there and I took photos of the place. And when I get through, I looked at the photos and I said to him through a messenger on Facebook, I'm sorry, but I wasn't able to find any photos of this lady in white. But I did get a couple photos of some men that were looking out the windows of us as we walked into the place. And that photo right there, I sent to him, and he sent me back a message almost immediately. He must have been online at the time. He said, oh my God, that is my best friend. He died in 1998, I believe, something like that.
Wow.
At the Williamsburg Hospital. And evidently his ghost was out there at his best friend's favorite place to be, which was at that hunt club.
Okay, well, that answers one question. You know, I tell people all the time, some place is just a place you like to be that they haunt. So here's another one.
Now that is right outside the Bruton Parish Church, and if you look closely, you can see that there are a lot of people there.
Yeah.
And these ghosts are looking at what these people are looking at, which was a fireworks display. So that's another instance where ghosts like to come out. They like to be around people, and so they will often come out and actually hang out with people. I tell people that come on my ghost tours to take photos around us of the different people in the tour, because very often ghosts will show up that way.
Okay, and then here's another.
Like family reunions. And
yep, definitely like family reunions.
Yeah. Yep. It's a good idea.
All right, I found Williamsburg's Lady in White. And what's interesting about that photo is there is no walking motion. If you look, you could see that she apparently streaked from the right side to the left side and became stationary right there where I was taking a photograph. And I thought that was interesting. So, you know, we kind of like to think of ghosts as acting like humans, and they have a different mode of movement than us. And right there is proof of it. She's moving sideways very quickly, I might add, because the shutter was only open for about 1/30th of a second. All right, you want to talk creepy?
Yeah,
there you go.
I don't even know what to say about that. I see like horns and claws, and
it looks to me like a gargoyle off of the Notre Dame Cathedral.
But it kind of looks like a weird dog.
Well, the story behind that was that I was right outside the Bruton Parish Church taking photographs as a Christmas Eve service had ended. And so I was there taking photographs as people filed out from the main door. And I cropped out the people which were to the right of that part of the photo. And I just honed in on that. Now that is a bench that was right next to the doorway. And on that bench, I captured whatever that thing is. And the creepiest part about it, I thought, was that these people were walking out of a church, supposedly worshiping God, and they've got something that looks like the devil out there on the bench waiting for them.
I'm speechless on that.
All right, that's another interesting story right there. And what's funny about it is that that was an accident. I had been taking a photo of the house right next door to that place. And the house next door was an 18th century house. It had some interesting history. And I wasn't interested in the house where those two ghosts showed up. but because I had a wide-angled lens on my camera, it was able to just pick up the corner of that house. And
That
what I
is weird looking, though. I mean,
isn't it?
this guy here looks naked. I'm just saying.
Okay, well, if you look closely, he's got his hand over the mouth of that woman.
Yeah, like I said, I can't tell if this is a man or a woman.
I think the woman is the one in white, and the guy with the red eyes is behind her.
Yeah, like I said, I can't tell whether it's male or female, but if this is male, he looks naked.
Okay.
There's something about that says something to me along the lines that this person here, besides the obvious controlling, murdered this person. Just saying. That's that's what I feel when I see that.
That is so cool that you said that, because I've got more to the story.
Oh, okay.
I have a friend of mine. He's in the Army. He was stationed at Fort Eustis at the time, and he does, his specialty is EVPs. So before he even met me, he came up, he had read my book, and he went to the place, the house where those ghosts appeared, and he started asking questions. And the first question he asked was, who was the woman in the photograph? And it said Angelina. So we had a name. And who was the guy behind her? And it said cousin, bad man. And he said, well, what happened to Angelina? And he said, this was each separate words, but it said rope around neck, drug off. So interesting story there. Evidently that's a victim and a murderer that showed up at the corner of that house, and I accidentally captured them when I wasn't even trying to.
I wonder if it's, well, I would assume that it's residual. A residual haunting. I don't know. But, okay, and now this one?
That is from one of the most haunted roads in America. Probably a lot of people haven't heard of it, but I've been on some of the other ones, and this one, it's got quite a back history to, let's just say, make the stories about it more relevant than I would say some of the other places that are said to be so haunted. So let me give you just a few examples. First off, that road, right off the side of it was the encampment of the French soldiers during the 1781 Battle of Yorktown. And I'm sure there were French soldiers that died there, because the story is that more soldiers died from camp fever, which was probably some sort of dysentery, than they did from actual gunshot wounds. And so then we go from 1781 to 1862, and that place was the Union encampment during the siege of Yorktown. So again, we're going to have deaths of Union soldiers in that area. And then after the Civil War, that road was used as a place by the Ku Klux Klan to hang people.
So is this Elbow Road?
It's called Crawford Road.
Crawford Road? Because I know there's one Elbow Road out there. I'd heard about that from my niece's husband.
So, no, this is Crawford Road.
Okay.
And then here's even more. Since 1990, there have been 5 murders on that road too. So it's got quite the background to I would say, enforce the theory that that's one of America's most haunted roads.
Okay. And that's the same one. Isn't this the same as that other one that we looked at that was the guy's friend? Or is this different?
No, this is from Tuning's Tavern. possibly one of the taverns that you saw the ghosts at. And I thought it was so interesting. The guy either looks like a Civil War soldier or a hippie from the 1970s. I don't know which.
Yeah, that's kind of hard to tell. I mean, what goes around comes around. We all know that. Okay. And this looks like a woman. I don't know.
Now, this is a photo of the, at the time, it was a store called, it was a toy store, and it was later changed into a store called Everything Williamsburg. And I took photos in the windows outside, and there is a little girl ghost in there that they had told me about. But here's the thing. There are many times where there's like one, maybe two ghost stories that are told about a certain place that is deemed to be haunted. But I always get so many more ghosts than I have story. So this looks like a female. Now, what I learned about the ghost that haunts this place, they call her Carolyn, and it's supposed to be a little girl that was a victim of a fire at the property before the store was built on it. And what's interesting about Carolyn, or whoever, perhaps even this woman right here, is that one of the two of them will take dolls that are for sale up in the upstairs of the store, and they will sit them on the floor in a circle, and very often they will redress the dolls, exchange clothes with the dolls, and sometimes they even rearrange the store's displays. And this happens a lot. And at first, people in the morning shift, blamed it on the people from the night shift. They thought that they were screwing with them. But later they come to find out that no, it wasn't a human person that was doing these rearrangements of both the dolls and the displays inside the store. It was possibly Carolyn, or that woman that you see in the photo.
Okay.
All right, there we have Mgm Grand Casino, one of the ghosts I captured in the casino. And what was interesting is I walk in with my camera and I start taking photos, and I took about 5 photos in the casino area, and then I was rushed by security. And they came over and said, "I'm sorry, sir, you can't take photos in here." And they quickly ushered me out. I was thankful they didn't try to confiscate my camera. But I was there for the ghost photos, and they said, no, this is very private. And basically what they were saying is what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. So
that's not true. What happens in Vegas is on YouTube and Facebook, and now Twitch and TikTok. I can guarantee that. I was on Periscope out there and had lots and lots of activity, people inviting us to parties and all kinds of crap.
Wow.
No. Okay, where's this one?
That is a store on the main street in Colonial Williamsburg. And this was right around the Christmas season. And of course, it gets dark about 5 o'clock here then. And so the employees, the interpreters from Colonial Williamsburg, were just getting off at that time, and they had all gathered around the store front, and they were evidently talking about what they were going to do for their weekend. And so I took a photo of them, and if you notice, I blacked out the faces of some of the people that were facing me because I didn't get signed permission to use them. But at the back of one of the women, you will notice, and I blew it up in the top left, was the ghost of a little girl in colonial dress that showed up there. So perhaps she thought that the woman looked like her mother or grandmother or some other relative, and she felt attached to this woman and showed up in the photograph.
For some reason, I feel like that's maybe that related to that woman as opposed to the property. I get these feelings sometimes, and I'm usually, so far I've been right most of the time, but for some reason it feels like that child belongs to her.
Wow.
That's like I said, I don't know. I'm not there, but sometimes I can read pictures. Sometimes I can't, but sometimes I can. So, okay, now this looks like it's in a business, in a hotel or something.
Back in Vegas, MGM Grand, one of the 5 photos that I took before I was rushed by the guards.
Yeah, the carpet is what gave it away.
And one of the interesting things about it, other than the fact that the guy looks like he's from the 1970s, he's got sandals, blue jeans, a white blousey shirt, and long hair, is that the whole back of his head is missing. And so I just have to wonder, is he a victim of suicide? Did he come to Vegas, lose all of his money, and then commit suicide? I don't know if you know this or not, but Vegas is the suicide capital of the United States. And evidently that's what happens. People go there and lose all, or at least the majority of their money, and they can't face their families, and they commit suicide.
Well, hopefully that slows down a little. So let's see. And this here looks like an alien down here, and then it looks like a face of a person up here. I'm just saying.
Okay. Well, I've got a lot of ones that I would say resemble aliens.
Oh, Pennhurst.
At Pennhurst Asylum.
Oh,
Yeah, Pennhurst, I mean, since people were starving in there, I mean, I remember that being on the news when I was a kid.
Yeah, that there were unspeakable horrors that took place at that place. And what I went there a couple years ago. See, my publisher is out of Eastern Pennsylvania, and so I found out that Pennhurst was really such a haunted place, and so I decided, after I had gone to visit my publisher, that I would stop by there and see if I could take some photos. And getting in there was like going through the Gestapo, but the owner gave me permission to be on the property for 1 hour in the daytime. So a lot of people seem to think that you have to be out in the dead of night in order to get ghost photos. No, you don't. All these photos that I took from Pennhurst, and I got about 40 good ghost photos out of that session. And I took probably 300 to 400 photos and got 30 to 40. But that said, that was one of the most haunted buildings there. I can't remember the name of it, but those two photos, those two apparitions showed up in the photo.
Okay, and I think we have 2 more photos. And I think this is a close-up of, this a close-up of the picture before, or is it a different picture? No,
this is a separate photo from Pennhurst Asylum too.
Okay, and then...
Okay, that's an interesting one. That's from the Edgar Allan Poe Museum in Richmond, Virginia. And
that looks like a picture I've seen of his wife, cousin.
Really?
Yeah. Long story short, I broke into the Edgar Allan Poe Museum back in 1977, 78, in Baltimore, before they had security cameras and all that other crap. So I don't suggest that for anyone out there. Do not do that. But it was, I loved Edgar Allan Poe growing up. So, but that does look very eerily like his wife, who also was his cousin, I believe.
Yeah, there's some weird arrangements back then. But that was in what I believe is called the North Building. And that was right in the window as I took photos of the building. I went up there, the first time I went up there, I didn't have too much luck. I only captured like 1 or 2 ghosts, but when I returned, it was a lot nicer weather, and it was in the daytime that I captured those. And the North Building is one of the last ones, if you tour through the whole museum, that they will take you on. And that place, it has inside some personal artifacts of Edgar Allan Poe. And so I figured that that might be the reason why that those two faces showed up. And I wonder, were they twins, or did the apparition appear twice and it
They
was so
look the
quick?
same to me. I'm just saying they look the same to me, just, basically made a different face, or in transition, moving maybe, so you didn't get as sharp of a photo. So I hope you guys liked all those photos. And stop sharing this. Bring you back. And so hopefully, Steve, we answered your question on photos. So when it comes right down to it, where did you get the creepiest photo that you've ever gotten? Was it the one that we showed with the red unknown entity?
Yep.
Or
That's it.
okay, there you go,
Steve. In it. People like creepy, so I sent you the creepiest.
So, and I'd like to say hello to everyone out there. I've been seeing you come in, and I'm grateful that you're here. I hope you're having a good time. If you have any questions to ask the guests, please put it in chat, and I will make sure I ask the question. From what I can tell, Tim's more than willing to talk about it. So get those questions out there. So, so you have 3 books on ghost photography from Williamsburg. Do you have other ghost photography books on places other than Williamsburg?
Yeah, that's the thing that I did 2 books, and because I got so much better at the ghost photography, I redid my first book because I got a lot of better photos than I originally had. And also I had gotten it, people that worked for Colonial Williamsburg had gotten in touch with me, and they were telling me that a couple of the stories were in error. So I wanted to correct that, because I always try to not only be historically correct, but to get the ghost stories the way that they were actually told. But if you notice on the right, I went through the whole state of Virginia for that one, because people were saying, well, it was the only place you can get ghosts in Williamsburg. So in order to prove that, I went all over Virginia, and guess what they're saying now? Well, so the only place you can get ghosts is in Virginia.
Of course they say that. So I have family in Virginia. Okay. And I know that there is a lot of, do you have any better lighting, Tim? Because it's hard to see you.
I had to sit outside because I have a young puppy that would make a lot of noise and start barking if I sat in there with him, and I didn't want that to interfere with the interview.
Yeah, that's fine. Gretna, Virginia. Have you been there?
No, I haven't.
Okay. How about, what is it? Major, it's near Wytheville. Major Graham's house.
No, I haven't been there.
Oh, it's right off the highway. I drove by it on my way to Danville, and I pointed it out to my kids, and I go, that place is haunted. And they go, how do you know? And I said, I see it. And found out after we got home, driving all the way back from Virginia to home, found out it was haunted, or it is haunted, and they had tours, but I didn't know that at the time. So
well, here's the thing. I had so many photos and so many places that I had gone to in Virginia, and I didn't even get to the 2 that you were just talking about, but it was way too much for one book.
That's always the case, isn't it?
The publisher told me, said, I can't put a book out that thick. I'd have to charge $50 for it. And so I had to pare it down to it was about 30 places, close to 30 places that I went to. and I'll have to save some of these other places for a part 2. But my next project is not going to be still in the state of Virginia, because people were saying you can only get ghosts in Virginia. So I'm going all over the country. And
Okay.
what I'm doing is I'm going behind the paranormal TV shows and getting the photos that they didn't get.
Okay. So
So
I saw that you did a conference at Unity Village here in Kansas City.
yes,
So did you get anything in the Kansas City area?
I was only there for 2 days, and I had to get right back because I had some business commitments. But I so wanted to get something in the Kansas City area. I just didn't have time.
Did you take any pictures at Unity Temple?
No, I didn't.
Historically speaking, that there was a Native American battle on that land. So you should have.
I had
we used
no
to live
idea.
down the street from there.
I wish they would have told me.
They don't tell you. It's strange there at Unity Temple, the stuff they will tell you versus the stuff that they won't. But yeah, I used to live right off the same road that Unity Temple's on.
Uh-huh.
So, but yeah, you weren't too far from a lot of haunted places in the Kansas City, Missouri area. So, because I saw that in your bio that you had shared that. And so, but there was a typo in that. I'm going to tell you now. So if you sent that to anybody else, it's Missouri, not Michigan. Because I'm going, is there a Kansas City, Michigan? I'm looking for it. And I'm going, nope. Looked it up. And okay.
I don't know how that happened, but I'm sorry.
MIMO. I mean, so where is this building here in the Ghost of Photography Haunted Historic Virginia?
Which one?
This one right here. The book on the far right.
Far right? That is the ones for Haunted Historic Virginia. And that is in New Kent County. And that is a tavern from the 18th century. And what is interesting is that from that same view, on the inside of the book, you can see that I captured an African-American woman on the outside in period clothing. And she's kind of, it looks like she's trying to protect or safeguard a young white child that has long blondish colored hair and is, just very small, looks like about 4 or 5 years of age.
Okay. And then in this middle book, or the middle book with the brick building, looks like it's at least, well, it looks like it's 2 stories with an attic and a basement.
Yes, that is the governor's palace. That is not an original building.
No, I went by there. They had a party going on when I was there, and it's beautiful.
It is. And yet it was rebuilt in like 1934. So even though it's not original, I can tell you that it is very, very haunted. There's a lot of death that happened there, particularly during, again, the Yorktown battle in 1781. The soldiers, the American soldiers, or Continental soldiers as they called them back then, they were kept there after they had been wounded. So they were brought back from Yorktown and they stayed there at the governor's palace. And the outside, when they were digging up, the archaeologists back in the late 1920s and early 30s, when they were digging up the land there, they discovered that there were over 50 shallow graves that they believed to be Continental soldiers that had been treated in that place. I hesitate to call it a hospital, but that's what they called it. And they evidently died and were buried in shallow graves in the back of that building.
Yeah. So some people may not realize this, but growing up in Maryland, Virginia, I lived in Maryland, Virginia. I lived from Danville to Gretna, Alta Vista, kind of that corridor, In fact, I guarantee some trees along 81 and 95 were probably fertilized with my diapers, because my dad wouldn't stop. He would just stop and change me on the car. But we spent a lot of time on the roads between, Gretna and Paterson, New Jersey. Okay. So I lived all along that area. And what people don't know is you have so much history related to the Revolutionary War, related to just people coming to America from, one of my places I want to go is Jamestown. I want to go to Jamestown more than anything. Never been there. Been to Yorktown, never been to Jamestown, because of all the history that is available out there. And I know that all these places are so rich in history that we've got to have, we know that there's got to be paranormal activity. So, you're talking about all over America doing a book. I just hope that you do the research and find out which places people have already done, and maybe do some place that's not already done to death. You know what I mean? Yeah. That sounds weird, done to death. And that's what this is all about. But there's some places that get so much attention, and there's so many other places out there that deserve attention.
You're right. And Jamestown is the first chapter in my book on Virginia. And I've got to tell you that is one haunted place. And it's the scene of some untold misery. There was over 500 people that starved to death there. And it was a disaster from the very beginning. If you read any of the accounts about it, and there was even people eating not only soles from their shoes and things like that, but there's at least one definitive account of a man that ate his dying or dead wife. I'm not sure if he ended up killing her or if she was already dead and he ate her.
Oh, that's disgusting. So, of all the places that you've been, what place would you say, if I went and took a picture there, I would get ghosts probably in my pictures?
Mm-hmm. I would have to say come to Colonial Williamsburg and go to either the Peyton Randolph House or the lit up courthouse of 1770. And you will definitely get ghosts, because at those two places, see, I run a tour here in Colonial Williamsburg, and I show people how to get photos of ghosts. And I point to the spots where I've gotten them, and I've had over 200 people capture their own photos of ghosts. And that helps me to shut up the skeptics that say, oh, this is just Photoshop. No, it's not. And I've got a small army of witnesses that have gotten their own ghost photos to back me up with that. And so those two places are the most frequent places where people have successfully taken photographs, both myself and people on my tour.
What would you say about the House of Burgesses?
It's haunted, but not as much as either the Peyton Randolph House or the area around the courthouse at 1770.
The only reason I ask is because one of my family members was John Carrington.
Oh, very cool. Well,
which was a big deal for me when I went, going, oh, that's a family member of mine.
Interesting. Well, I've captured more ghosts out in front of the Capitol than I've captured at the Capitol themselves. But I did have, from my second book, I did have a couple of interesting ghost photographs on that walkway between the two sides. So if you know anything about Virginia history, the building was divided in half between the elected side and the selected side. So the one half was the House of Burgesses, and they were obviously elected like our congressmen are today. The other side was the governor's council, and those men were selected by the royal governor of Virginia. And there's a walkway between them. And on that walkway one evening, when there were a group of school students, I would say about middle school age, that were coming out of there, after they had filed past, I took several photos, and there was both a woman in colonial dress standing on the left, and then there was a man in colonial dress. And you could tell that by the dress that he was a wealthy man, so he was probably a Burgess. And he was on the right in the very next photo.
So John Carrington sat in the second pew. So, I have a question from home here. So Ron asks, what do you think about orbs?
I believe that orbs are the concentrated energy of ghosts. I believe that they can take any shape or form. I believe that the photos that I take are holograms, and that it takes quite a bit of an energy for a ghost to recreate a hologram of themselves. But I've had more than enough experience. In fact, I've had videos. Remember a while back I mentioned that I lived in a haunted house and I had that infrared camera aimed at my front door.
Yes.
I would see orbs that would be flying around in the photo of that camera live, and they were moving at incredible speeds, and they were making sharp turns that could not be attributed to either dust particles or moisture in the air, like a lot of paranormal investigators try to dismiss them as. And so to me, that is scientific proof that it's something more than a piece of dust or a droplet of moisture that's in the air.
So, and then the follow-up question is do you get a lot of orb photos?
I can't say that I get a lot of them. And I don't know this for sure, but this is something that I was told to me. In fact, it was by I was asked to do a book presentation for a paranormal group up near you in Glen Burnie, Maryland.
Oh, yeah. I can tell you about that place too.
And when I went there, I was setting up the table, putting my books out and getting ready to speak to this group. And there was a fellow that came up that introduced himself, and his name is Rob Guttrow. And
I know Rob. I know him personally.
And well, then that he is a psychic. And he said, he walked up to me, held out his hand. He said, I knew who you were the minute I walked into the room. And the ghosts know who you are and what you do. And so based on that, I think that the ghosts endeavor to appear before me. So rather than capturing a lot of orbs, I usually capture a lot of holographic apparitions of what they looked like when they were alive.
Yeah, I met Rob in Alton, Illinois. So I've been friends with him for a while, as well as Mike Ricksecker of Haunted Road Media. And so, like I said, met him 2-3 times, something like that. So, wow, we've talked a lot, but we're going to take a small break here for you guys. I got a commercial I want to play. So you guys are going to see this and let me know what you think. So hopefully you like it. I don't know. Yay, commercials. Okay, here you go.
Hi, everybody. I'm Rex.
And I'm Shane.
We have a new show on the Bill of Rights Network. It is called Music, Movies, and Maybe More.
We explore bands that we've heard of that a lot of people haven't, that we feel like you should know about.
And we do the same with movies. There's a lot of movies out there that we know about that other people should know about as well.
And as for the maybe more part, you never know what else we can come up with.
So, on the Bill of Rights Network, every Saturday night, live at 7 p.m. Central Time, Music, Movies, and Maybe More will be on. Thank you for listening, and I hope to see you there. Now we'll return you back to Paranormal Pride and Denise Pridemore.
So I hope you guys like the commercial. I've got a couple more that are going to be coming, promoting different events around the area and promoting promoting the people that I believe deserve my attention. People I support. So there you go. So if you think I need to support you, let me know. Make me a commercial and maybe I'll use it. So or not, let me know. What do you want? What do you guys want to see? Tell me. So, and I'd like to say hi to everybody who's shown up since the last time I said hello to everyone. My guest tonight is Tim Scullion, and we have been talking about all kinds of things, all kinds of pictures and things like that he has taken. Well, I'm going to call them photographs because they're not just pictures. They actually tell a story. And I hope you guys, if you came in late, please go back and watch where Tim talks about the photographs. It's really interesting. And some are really, truly very amazing. So, so you've written other books as well on music, right?
Right.
So why don't you go ahead and plug those too? Because, people like music too.
Okay. Well, at the behest of my students, I teach guitar here in Williamsburg. And at the behest of my students, because they thought that it was kind of a shortcut, a backdoor to understanding music theory and what it has to do with the guitar, I put together a series of 4 books, and it's called Shred Tech, and they're available on Amazon. And each of them covers a different subject, but the main one that was most interesting to people was a shortcut to learning the different modes and how to apply them to playing lead guitar. So because of that, because of my students suggesting that, my books, particularly the one on guitar mode playing, has been quite a success all over the world.
That's good. I'm not much into. I played an oboe and I played a piano. That was only in school, and I wasn't good at the oboe, but I was decent at the piano. So, but my husband, on the other hand, is a drummer. So,
Cool.
Not much of a guitar player. Smoke on the Water, I think, is it.
Air guitar.
Oh, air guitar, awesome. So,
well, tell him I'm a drummer, but not much of a drummer.
There you go. So, I'm looking over your, kind of like your resume here. You talk about different shows that you've been on as far as radio. You say here, let's see, that you were on with George Norrie. How many times have you been on Coast to Coast AM?
I've been on there twice.
0.
Oh.
For me, anyway. Let's see. Darkness Radio with Dave Schrader.
He was my very first interview. And I got to tell you, at the time, I had never been on radio or TV before, and I was scared stiff. But I evidently pulled it off.
I like Dave. I know, and I'm friends with his cousin. So
he seemed like a nice guy when he was interviewing me.
Yeah, like I said, I like Dave. I think that he's got a good personality for TV. I I liked him better on the Holzer Files than I did on Ghost Adventures.
Yeah,
Just
I agree
me.
too.
I think
I
it's
agree.
because we got to see his actual personality on the Holzer Files, and I think that everybody's going to really enjoy him on Ghost of Devil's Perch. So make sure you guys check that out coming up with Dave Schrader, Cindy Kaza, and my good friend Katie Stafford. So make sure you guys check that out. Let's see, who else have you been interviewed by? Let's go back to Sophia Temporelli. She
Right.
used to be one of the youngest interviewers in the paranormal.
Yeah, and
Not
she
anymore.
does a
grown
great
up.
job. Yeah, and her dad Gian helps out too.
And let's see, I'm only going to pull out the people that I know. Oh, you're on the Ghostly Hour on KCOR in Vegas. So with David Cook. I had to find David Cook one night when we broke the world record. He was one of the guys I had to find to talk to him. But I've been on KCOR as well. I've been a guest host there. Let's see, guest co-host once and an actual host another time when I was in Vegas because the Rev was sick, and so I took over for him. Let's see, who else do you have on here?
I like David. He's a nice guy, and he sent me a couple photographs of a castle that he took over in England, and he wanted me to try to bring out the apparitions that were in there, and so I did that for him. I don't know if he ever put them on the show or not, but I've been interviewed by him twice now too.
He's like I said, he's a really nice guy, and talked to him. I talked to him a couple times, but not recently. So let's see. I'm seeing here. Oh, Belgrove Plantation and Edgewood. Those are two beautiful places, and I went to those. Shoot, I think before they were on the historical record. You know what I mean? Before they were.
That place is so beautiful.
It's been a long time. Let's see. I've never been to Jerome, Arizona. I have been invited to go. A coworker of mine lives in Phoenix, and he keeps going, meet me in Jerome, and we'll all go investigate. I was like, yeah, okay.
So haunted, I got to tell you.
Well, people don't realize how far off of the highway it is for us. You know, when we're driving to Vegas, you know, you got to go way south and then come up. You know, it's probably 15, well, I'd say probably at least 10 hours out of the way. By the time you go down and come back up in Kingman, it's, 5 hours down there and 5 hours back up. It's like, no. I want to go to Roswell.
I see. Haven't been there yet.
That's a couple hours away that would be a couple hours out of our way, but we'll do it someday. Let's see. What is one of the places that you want to go that you have never been to take pictures?
Skinwalker Ranch.
We've been watching that on TV.
I read about that place before it was even on TV, and it was written by Colm Kelleher, I believe. He's a scientist that did research there, and the book was quite compelling, and as soon as I read the book, I wanted to go there. And this was, like I said, before the TV show even came out.
There in Georgia, there is a Skinwalker Ranch similar place.
Really?
Yeah. So have you ever taken pictures of like the Brown Mountain Lights or anything like that?
No, I haven't been there yet.
Okay. They said, I'm going to ask you all kinds of questions. I'm
ready.
A lot. So Steve Foster asked, do you ever plan to go to the Sally House in Atchison, Kansas?
No, but I'd like to take notes on some of these suggestions.
I wouldn't waste my time going to the Sally House.
No.
I'm just saying. I was a tour guide there for 7 years. So
I see.
If you want to know anything about it, ask me. I'll tell you. But I wouldn't waste my time driving to Atchison to do that. Just me. Let's see. Where is there any place overseas that you'd like to check out that's had some compelling photographs that you'd like to take your own of?
Well, getting back to Rob Gattro, he's told some interesting stories about some of the palaces over in England, and so I would be intrigued to take photos of those places. And I would also like to take photos of the area around Stonehenge, see if I could come up with anything. And I can't remember the name, but there's this massive site in Ireland, and it seems to be prehistoric. It's in a big circle, and of course they've got this stone tunnel that's aligned.
The Hellfire Caves?
That doesn't sound quite right.
Well, I know that there's a bunch of caves underneath there. That's all I know. I've never been to Ireland, but I know that there's a lot of stuff that goes on there. So it'd be interesting to see. A friend of mine is doing a tour there at Halloween, and she lives in Virginia now, Vanessa Hogel. We were just watching something in Virginia. What was that name of that place?
Oh, the
Portals to Hell. They were showing Portals to Hell was showing a battlefield. We were just watching it. Like I said, I don't remember the name of the place, so it's interesting to say the least to see all that. Northern Virginia, yeah, like I said, because it's up near Maryland. But oh well, I'm not going to remember it right now, and I'm not going to take time away from you to research it. So, have you been on any of the shows at all? Have you been talked to about any of them?
No, I haven't been talked to any of the paranormal shows, but I had a woman that was a producer from the travel channel's The Haunting, and she wanted to do a whole TV series about me taking the photographs in Colonial Williamsburg. And so she went to the higher ups, the administration of Colonial Williamsburg, and they would not give her permission to film inside any of the buildings there. So that idea was scrapped.
Well, what's bad is inside some of those buildings, they don't let us take pictures either.
Yep.
So, I mean, it is what it is, you know.
Well, you know what? Even it's not so much now, but in the years past, they wouldn't even let people that were working for Colonial Williamsburg talk about ghosts. If you said anything to a tourist about a ghost, you would get fired.
I'm not shocked. I mean, Virginia is in the Bible Belt. I mean, I talked to you guys may know Tickle from Moonshiners. I was trying to have him come on my show because I wanted to talk about moonshine. But when he saw the name of my show, he goes, I can't do that because I don't believe in the paranormal. I was like, we don't have to talk about those kinds of spirits. We can talk about the other kind, you know, and he goes, but I don't believe in that. I'm like, so I don't, just because the show's called The Paranormal Pride, people know me. We don't always have to talk paranormal. We can talk about, you know, survivalism and things like that. It's just, I'm not going to get political on the show. That's the only thing. So, but again, my grandmother, okay, so I have family in Bristol too. And my great grandmother, if I'd have said any cuss word, I'd have gotten spanked. Okay. So, and I told you before the show, I'm not going to cuss. Well, here I am, I'm going to cuss. And so be aware, everybody, here I go. So we went into church and I hit my arm on the pew, and I was 3 years old and I had just learned some words. And when I hit my arm, I said, son of a bitch. And my grandmother, she's spun around, you know, a Bible in her hand. And she goes, what did that child say? And my mom goes, she said she's got an itch. So the thing is, my cousin lives in that house that grandmother built. And it's very haunted. I see family members there all the time. But the question is on that, am I just seeing family members there because I'm there, or are they there all the time? You know, I don't know. But my cousin, he says he doesn't feel anything there, but yet I would describe somebody And now I know who they are. I know what, who the people are that I'm seeing. And I can describe them. And, at that point, they're already telling me, that's Aunt Pearl or that's Aunt Minnie and, whatever. But it is strange that in certain places, you say ghost and everybody clams up. And there are certain places like that. And one of my listeners, Cassie, in the chat room, she does some tours in Leavenworth, Kansas. That's a place you figure it's been around forever. The prison's been there since 1839, the federal prison.
Yeah.
And so, and it was out there on the edge of civilization on the other side of the Missouri River for two reasons. If you escaped, either the Indians would kill you or the river would kill you. So one way or
like
another.
Alcatraz, huh?
Yeah. And so, and right now they, they're just starting to allow ghost tours there. It used to be people from out of town would come in and do ghost tours in Leavenworth, but now Cassie is able to do some ghost tours there. People don't know this, but Leavenworth has an underground, where there's storefronts and stuff underground. Why? I don't know, but there is. There's a lot of speculation as to why. But again, for the longest time, if you had mentioned anything about Leavenworth being haunted, people will go, nope, it's not haunted. That's Atchison. Go 20 miles up the road to Atchison. They're haunted. We're not. And it's like, no, that's not true. But Virginia is very much like that. Even back when I was a kid. Now, West Virginia, on the other hand, you talk about ghosts, and I guarantee they're coming out of the woodwork to tell you about them.
I see.
So Maryland, same way. They don't want to talk about it either. But.
Yeah, well, what's unfortunate about Colonial Williamsburg is that not only have they denied ghosts, and here's the hypocrisy. They have their own ghost tour, but they say that they try to get out of it by saying that we don't really believe that this is paranormal.
Oh, so we're only doing it for money?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's.
But they've also, for the first couple years that my books were out, they were the #1 seller in Colonial Williamsburg, and there was a new book dealer that came in, and they just quit handling my books, and they refused to handle them anymore. And so, as far as I'm concerned, between that and them threatening to fire people for even speaking about any type of ghosts. In fact, I've had people that they've told me stories, and they want me to just say an anonymous source because they're afraid of getting fired if their name is mentioned in the book as my source. So that's been very frustrating for me because they've tried every which way to basically discredit me and even refuse to have a TV show.
I have this book, Virginia's Haunted Historic Triangle, Williamsburg, Yorktown, Jamestown, and Other Haunted Homes from Pamela Kinney. I interviewed her a while back. I guarantee they carry her books, don't they? Without a problem.
I believe so.
Yeah. She's a very nice lady. I reviewed 3 of her books for her. I like them. I think so. But like I said, I haven't seen your books yet, so I can't say anything. I can't say anything negative. But so far, I'm very intrigued, and I hope everybody else is. So I wish you guys would be able to go out there and check out. I'm going to share all the links to your book, the books that you sent me links to, in the chat room, so that people can go out there and find those. And because that's the whole point. Get the word out there that you got these wonderful books. Where can we still got quite a bit of time? Where would you tell people to buy your books? Is there a way that they can buy them and have them autographed by you, or is that only in person?
No, I've had people buy them off of Amazon, and they, if they send them to me and they give me the postage to send it back, I'll be more than happy to autograph them.
Are your books also through Barnes and Noble?
Yes, they are.
Okay, there you guys
I
go.
don't know if they carry them in various cities across the country or if it's just in the Virginia area. The Barnes and Noble does carry them, and what was nice is a couple of years ago they did a whole. It was a great big store window, and they featured my book and everything about the book. And they had several cardboard cutouts of about a 3-foot high model of my book in the window. It was pretty cool.
Okay, that does sound really neat. So right now I'm sharing all your Facebook stuff. So
Thank you.
that will get you a couple more people to check those out. And here's the other one. No, you're seeing all this stuff. It's because it's going to all these different sites. It's going to a couple different Facebooks, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. So we're getting you all kinds of notoriety here today.
Thank you.
So what are you working on currently?
Well, it's that book that I was talking about a while back, although COVID has put a lot of constraints on traveling, but I'm still trying to go to the different places that have been featured on paranormal shows and getting the photographs that they didn't. And I've got about a third of the book done right now, and I've been quite successful at getting photographs at just about any of the places that I have tried so far. You know, that doesn't mean that there'll be 1 or 2 places that I don't get anything, but so far I've gotten photographs that are pretty intriguing and compelling at each of the places that I've stopped at.
What of the places that I'm going to paranormal stalked of those places, which one has been the most, I don't want to, the opposite of disappointing. I don't want to say the most disappointing, because just because you didn't get anything doesn't mean that it was disappointing. But which place was, the most exciting for you to get to and get proof of afterlife?
I would have to say Pennhurst Asylum, because just the sheer volume of ghosts and the fact that I got it in the day in just an hour's time. I practically raced around that place because I wanted to get just about all the buildings, and I didn't, but I got enough photographs in there to really impress me on the fact that that place is really haunted.
Have you been to other asylums like that?
Well, there's been here in Williamsburg, there's the Eastern State Asylum, and it's a rebuilt asylum. And the first few times that I went there, the only thing that I captured in the windows was apparitions of cats. And go figure.
That's kind of creepy if you think about it.
That's all I could get. And eventually I went back there several more times, and in the back of the building, not in the front, but in the back, I was able to capture some pretty creepy photos of what may have been patients in the Eastern State Hospital at that place. Now, I've tried to go to the new version of that hospital, which is not in Colonial Williamsburg, and they won't let me on the property to take photos of ghosts.
So have you ever been asked, you've been asked to leave a casino for taking pictures.
Yep.
Is there any place that you're banned from for taking pictures?
Not yet, but they almost threw me out when, if you remember when I was telling you about the time that I was taking photographs of people coming out of the Bruton Parish Church.
Yeah. And
they were threatening to call security on me. And all I was doing was taking photos. I wasn't bothering anybody or hurting anybody, and they were acting like I was committing a crime.
some people just don't like getting their pictures taken, and they go, "Oh, you're trying to expose my kids to stuff," and I'm like, no. But people are just like that, though. And so, as we've been talking about all this, a lot of the places we've been talking about are religious as well as non-religious, health related and non-health related. Since you're in the area where you are, have you been able to go up to Pennsylvania, which I know Pennhurst is in Pennsylvania, and get anything like in Pennsylvania Dutch country?
Not the Dutch country, but I've gotten some interesting photos at the Gettysburg sites.
I went there. I tell everybody knows this that's heard me before, but I have been, I started seeing spirits when I was young, and we would go on field trips. And so I, at the orphanage, had children come out and try to get me to come with them.
Wow. And
of course I couldn't, because I was with school group and I couldn't let people know, hey, I see spirits. So this was like back in 76, 77. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 19. So I'm old. But yeah, it was really interesting, all the stuff that we saw. When we went a few years ago in 2019. No, we went in 2017. Mm-hmm. And it was so commercialized that I just didn't like being there. Our hotel room was haunted, though, because it was pretty much on the graveyard, but it was right across the street from the graveyard there. But almost everything's across the street from the graveyard.
Well, I got a place if you want to come and stay at a haunted place here in Colonial Williamsburg. It's called the Market Square Tavern, and you can rent a room there for the night, and you will have Civil War soldiers marching through your room.
That's what we had, was a Civil War soldier in our room.
Opening doors, and sometimes, yeah. And here they will walk through walls, too.
So David, did you want me to ask that question? Let me know. So, I don't know. I have some great listeners. Antietam. Have you been there? Have you witnessed anything at Antietam?
No. I do plan on going there, though. I wanted to include it and a bunch of other sites in my Virginia book, but like I said, I had to put the brakes on and exclude about 10 chapters that I had already written, because my publisher said can't be that big of a book.
Yeah. Well, I have a cousin. One of my cousins actually lives on Antietam battlefield in a house. It used to be a church or a school. Church or a school. I don't remember exactly. I've only met her once. So, and yes, David, I realize you're paying me back for all the times I've thrown you off on your show. I'm sorry. So,
what's interesting is that I just got invited up to Fredericksburg at the Barnes and Noble for Saturday, October 29th to the woman that's organizing it from Barnes and Noble is having as many paranormal writers as she can there this is going to be right before Halloween, so everybody's going to be excited about the paranormal anyway.
Well, hopefully she gets Kat Gash, because Kat Gash lives right there in Fredericksburg.
Well, I'm sure she's contacted her. She seems to know a lot of paranormal writers, but I'm going to go up there for that book signing, and I fully plan to go to all the battlefields around there in Antietam during that trip, and hopefully get some great ghost photographs.
Yeah, definitely go by Sharpsburg. Well, everybody knows this is Shepherdstown, but Sharpsburg. Go there, check it out. That's one of the most, I have to say, the town itself is amazing. The restaurants are really good, but we used to go when I was a kid out there. And so things may have changed a little, but the hauntings they don't usually change. They just usually get worse.
Yeah.
Because they have new hauntings that go along with the old ones sometimes. So that's one of the things I noticed in Gettysburg, is that some of the hauntings that I was witnessing were more current than historical.
Yes, I've witnessed the same thing here in Colonial Williamsburg, where I've captured what appears to be modern tourists because they're wearing modern clothing, blue jeans and skirts that were shorter than all the way to the floor. I mean, you couldn't wear anything that showed your ankles back in the 18th century. And I've had pictures since then of modern tourists. I even had a woman that she was evidently in jogging gear, and she had on just a halter top and really short shorts and tennis shoes. And she showed up in a photograph. So obviously very current. And it's obviously she's joined with the other 18th century and 19th century ghosts in the Williamsburg haunting scene.
Yep, that's one of those things. So Gary asks, have you ever caught spirits leaving a trail? He caught one with like having 10 or 11 trails, kind of like that one woman that you had on the photo, that she left a trail. The one moving from, moving this way. She kind of left one. So do you get that often?
That one right there. But there are other times when you will see that there is a part of the hologram of the ghost that is blurry, and that's because they move incredibly fast. And I'll give you another example. If you remember that red gargoyle-like apparition that I captured outside the church, if you look at it closely, it looks like a double or perhaps even a triple exposure, because the thing's head has moved so quickly. So you could see what appears to be the head and then the eyes appearing 2, if not possibly 3 times in that photo.
We have a picture that's looks like a little man in a little red suit standing in front of me, blurring me out in the Sally house. It was kind of strange. I didn't see the guy, but everybody else saw it in the picture, and to me, I didn't see it. I don't know if it's because, and neither did the other woman there that had mediumship abilities. She didn't see it either, but everybody else did. So I don't know if we can see through it or what. I don't know. It was just kind of weird. But David asks, what is Tim's favorite camera to use for photographing spirits?
I have, from the beginning, stuck with Canon equipment. I found it to be very high quality. And so I have a Canon 5D Mark III with full spectrum capability that is my favorite.
David is a videographer, and he's very good at a documentarian as well, film documentarian. And he's going to go with, she's making up words. So, which I do. But yeah, he does excellent videos. And do you do any video?
I've done one for YouTube, and I was planning to do a whole series on some of the places that I have been to that were more haunted. And I got the one out, and then my wife got sick, and she later passed away, and that just kind of put the brakes on everything.
I'm sorry to hear that. Have you taken pictures in your own home, trying to see if she's there?
No.
Okay. I tell people all the time, don't investigate your own home. I tell people that all the time.
Yeah, so, I don't want these. I told her to move to the light, to go on and not to stay behind, and that's That's what my hopes and prayers are, that she moved on rather than is sticking around trying to watch over me or something.
Right. There's a theory that some spirits can go back and forth between the realms.
I have heard that before, but what I've also heard is that you have to go into the lighted doorway or tunnel or whatever you want to call it first.
Mm-hmm.
You are able to come back for visits. Rob Gautreaux is one that has mentioned that to me too. But if you don't go initially, then you're stuck here. And I've been told by intuitive mediums that those type of spirits can be subjugated to evil forces, demonic forces, whatever you'd like to call them.
So April, she posts a comment. She says, "My pictures tend to capture orbs with faces in them or twisted lines of light, and once half of an elderly woman and another of a big floating mist." So of any of those, just off the top of your, not off the top of your head, from your experience, can any of those be debunked? You know, is a big floating mist something that could be a spirit that's just not able to fully gel?
What I've found very often is that in mists, it's multiple spirits. And I've captured photos. I'll give you a good example. I captured a mist up in, I can't remember the name, but it was at Woodrow Wilson's library here in Virginia. And I captured multiple faces in that. And in another instance at the graveyard right outside the Bruton Parish Church here in Colonial Williamsburg, I captured a bunch of faces in a mist. And, you know, as far as debunking, there's going to be people out there that are going to try to debunk absolutely everything. And it's easier to beat my head up against a brick wall than to try to defend that to the people that don't want to believe or are so skeptical.
Yeah, we have a comment back here. I'm going to it from Steve Foster. It says something along the lines of, let's see, here we go. There you go. Disbelievers will never admit that these things can actually exist. So right along the same lines of what we're talking about, you know, people will punch holes into anything that they can.
Yep.
It's just our human nature to question the things that scare us the most.
Yep.
So have you ever been touched by a spirit?
Many times.
How did it feel to you?
Each time is different. Let me give you a couple examples. At the Edgewood Plantation up in Charles City, there is up along that, they call it the Plantation Row, and all along the Jamestown River, there's massive antebellum plantations that are original from the 18th century. And at Edgewood Plantation, which is also a bed and breakfast, if any of your audience want to go and stay in a haunted place, I was outside. I knocked on the door because the owner knew that I was coming that night, but I wanted to make sure that she knew that I was there and I was walking around and photographing the place. And right before I went up to the door and knocked on it, I felt a ghost tap me twice. Now, at the Colonial Williamsburg jail, when I was there, it wasn't a tap, but I felt an ice cold feeling run down my spine. It went into my neck and then it flowed all the way down my spine. And I knew that immediately that there was a ghost right there that was, I don't know, perhaps inside my body for all I could tell. And I've had similar experiences to those two in other places.
Isn't Edgewood Plantation the one that was on Kindred Spirits? or was that a different show? Oh,
I'm-
Ghost Hunters.
I'm not
Ghost
sure
Hunters.
that it was on one TV show.
Yeah, it was on an episode of Ghost Hunters. That's
Okay.
what it says. So, like I said, because I know that there was another plantation that was on Kindred Spirits that was in Virginia, and it might have been the other one.
I think it was Bellevue.
Yeah, it was probably that one. And I try to keep up on all of them. I just can't watch all the shows. I'm too busy with grandkids and a job that doesn't let me rest. So April asks, have you ever considered going to Wisconsin for any reason? LOL.
I want to get everywhere.
Yeah,
Really?
she's the one that used to. She's my cousin that used to live in Virginia Beach. Her husband was in the military, in the Navy there, and they moved cross country, and then now they're in Wisconsin, and been getting some really crappy weather up there from what it looks like to me. So, but again, it's hell. Today was what, probably 90 something. It was only supposed to be 82 here, but she's been getting some crappy weather up there. But have you ever gone to a place that you were told was not haunted and found out otherwise?
The best example that I could give to answer that question was one of the photos that I took earlier. Remember, I told you that I was taking photos of an 18th century house, and the house next to it was of no interest to me because it not only A, did not have any ghost stories, but B, did not have any compelling or intriguing history, and so I didn't really care to put it in my book. And that was a photo of what looks like two African Americans, the man with the red eyes behind the woman with his hand over her mouth.
Right.
And like I said, that was just captured in the very edge of the photo because I had a wide-angled lens. But I've found spirits in other places, but I've got to tell you that there are spirits everywhere.
I know.
Well, I'm telling your audience more than you.
Yeah, they've heard stories, and I guarantee that I tell people all the time that some of the most paranormal things that happen to me is in Walmart.
Wow.
It's my daughter laughs every once in a while. We'll walk down the aisle and 12 loaves of bread will just fly off the shelf, and she goes, "You gonna pick that up?" I go, "No, I didn't do it. I'm not picking it up."
Yeah.
And she'll go back and pick it up because I won't. And I'm like, I don't work here. It's not up to me. So,
well, I guess here's a better answer to that question. Because I know that there are ghosts everywhere, it doesn't surprise me anywhere that I go that I happen to stumble across a ghost, even if I'm not expecting it.
well, that makes sense. So at this point, we've got about 15 minutes left. So guys, if you have any questions to ask Tim, this is your last chance. So get those questions in there so we can get them asked and answered. And if you listen to this show later, you didn't get a chance to ask your question live, please feel free to reply to one of the different streams, and I will send the questions to Tim, and we will still get those questions answered for you. I don't want to rule you out because you couldn't listen live. So Steve says Walmart's at 3 a.m. is creepy even without a ghost. Just some of the living people there are scary enough. I think Ron can validate that. He used to work overnights at Walmart in the grocery section. So, and some other sections as well, but mostly grocery. So, and I don't know if David could validate that too, but I know David has seen some really strange things when he worked at Walmart. So, so let me think here. I want to come up with something new and different. Because sometimes you guys get asked the same. I mean, we ask the same questions all the time. So, do you ever actually investigate Or do you just go and take pictures?
That's my investigation.
Okay.
I'm not interested in the EVPs. I mean, if somebody comes along with me and does that, that's fine. But
What did you say?
people are usually wanting to come along with me because they want to try to figure out why I get so many ghosts or why I'm so successful and they're not. And I don't really want that. But
Ron was making a joke. He goes, "What's his favorite piece of equipment?"
investigation
So,
is
yeah. So at this point, you're freezing up a little bit, but yeah, Ron said something about what's your favorite piece of equipment? He was joking, of course. So as you can see, if you ever make it to Missouri, let us know, and you ever make it to Missouri, let us know, and we'll get you out to the Hans Mill Massacre site and the cemetery that we go to often. I think you'd enjoy that. Here's a question for you from David. He asks, are you familiar with the observer effect? And if so, how do you combat that in your photography?
No, I'm not, but explain it to me and I'll tell you.
So there you go, David. If you could put a description in there, it would be great. So, and Jailbird, she suggests that you check out the asylum on Finger Lakes, and she says she's heard stories about that place. She lives in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I think Finger Lakes is in Florida, isn't it?
No.
Or is that the one that's in
New York?
New York. Oh, that's right. She put that up somewhere else. So see, just me get tired, can't read. Have you heard anything about? Yeah, she says she's from New York. She lives in Florida. Oh boy. I'm going to stick with Williamsburg only because of the fact that I don't want to travel outside that right now. In Williamsburg, they're still doing tours, correct?
Correct.
Do you do those tours still, or does somebody else?
I still do them. However, I've been thinking about closing that aspect down and moving to a haunted plantation in the area.
Oh, okay.
And the reason why I say that is because, as I mentioned before, Colonial Williamsburg has quit selling my books. They've denied a reputable producer from coming in and doing a TV series on me, and there have been other ways where they've tried to discredit me, and so I'd rather go to a place where I'm wanted.
I get it. Believe me, I have my own stories, but I'm not going to share them here. So David says, in a nutshell, it's changing the way the energy behaves through observing it with cameras and other devices. So do you think that observing it with a camera changes the way that it reacts, or the way it reacts?
Well, going back to what Rob Guttrow said, they evidently telepathically can tell what we were thinking. They can tell why we are there. So I'm sure if they know that I'm there to take their photo, then perhaps that's true.
Okay. And April, she replies back out saying, I love Williamsburg, and her favorite thing was the tavern at night and the games and the acting that they do. Best date night ever. So, what is the house in Williamsburg that has the cannonball? Where the cannonball hit the chimney? You know which house I'm talking about?
Are you sure it's in Williamsburg and not Yorktown?
No, I'm positive it's in Williamsburg because I didn't go to Yorktown back in 98. We were on a walking tour, and they had a Jefferson reenactor
Mm-hmm.
walking in that area. He actually came and spoke at the College of William and Mary to talk to us about the pursuit of happiness. And so the tour that we were on was because we were doing a pursuit of happiness tour, basically. And that's what they were spending their time talking to us about was Thomas Jefferson. And it was actually Thomas Jefferson's relative. The guy actually looked like Thomas Jefferson.
Huh.
So, and I can see the house. It's a big stone house. Of course, I mean, not stone, brick house. It had white shutters. But again, every house out there is brick, seems to have white shutters, has a couple fireplaces on each side. It's like I could be describing every house in Colonial Williamsburg.
No, there are more
multiple
houses.
Stories.
There are more houses that have the clapboard siding than the brick houses. So
Yeah,
if you had
this
brick, you were pretty wealthy. There's only a few brick houses here. It could have been the Wythe house, or it could have been the Ludwell house, but I don't know for sure. What I do know for sure is that the cannonballs are embedded in the side of the Thomas Nelson house in Yorktown from the Battle of Yorktown in 1781.
They said that this house had a cannonball from the Revolutionary War as well as the Civil War. This house had been hit twice with a cannonball. I'm like, I mean, let's be honest. I'm going to tell you something that's going to make you freak out. I know not one person that's been hit by a train. I know two. I know one person who's been struck by lightning twice. I mean, so needless to say, I hear stuff, and if it's weird like that, I'll remember it. So, I mean, think about that. Two people who have been hit by trains that survived.
Well, I'm not sure which house you're talking about, but I can tell you this, that during the Revolutionary War, that there were no battles fought here in Williamsburg. So unless they were practicing with a cannon somewhere, I don't see how that the cannonball could have been fired during the Revolutionary War.
Let's see. I'm going to have to find it because it's going to drive me crazy. But like I said, they pointed it out to us and kept saying, it's the White House. Williamsburg.
Oh, okay.
Wythe.
With, yeah.
With, yeah. Because the other place that I talked about was Wytheville. And it's probably named after him.
The Wythe house is a large red brick house, and George Wythe was Thomas Jefferson's personal tutor for learning law.
Okay. Well, then that makes sense, all this, what I was talking about then. So we'll go with that.
Okay.
So do you have any other radio shows or video shows you're going to be on anytime soon?
No, not that I know of, but I've got to tell you that I've been so busy doing other stuff that I've kind of ignored that type of thing for the last few months. Plus the fact that my wife died, that really crushed me.
I like I said, I'm so sorry. I didn't know, and I hope she's resting peacefully, and I hope you are too. Hopefully she crossed over. I'm not seeing anything in your background that makes me think that she's there.
Good.
So I don't know if you've talked to other mediums or anything like that, and I don't consider myself a medium in any way. I just tell you what I think I hear or think I see, and if I'm right, yippee. If I'm not, I am not claiming to be a professional at anything other than Excel spreadsheets and automation. That's the only thing I can tell you I'm an expert at. Okay. So, do you have a day job?
Not right now. I used to be a teacher, and I used to be a tour guide, but right now I have my own ghost tour that I run, and couple that with my writings and doing research. That's what I do.
Okay. Well, because a lot of paranormal people have day jobs as well, that they're juggling a full-time job with paranormal, and some only do the paranormal. I don't know how you pay your bills that way, but it is what it is. But if I was to go out and buy a camera, you're going to recommend that Canon that you were talking about, right?
Yeah.
How expensive is that?
It depends on where you buy it. It could be $1,000. It could be $1,500 or more.
Okay. And do you have special attachments for it, lenses and stuff
Special
like
lenses,
that?
yep.
Okay. So that explains, it could be a very expensive hobby for
Very
someone.
expensive, yeah.
For you, it's not a hobby, it's a job. But if you're going to spend that much money, you better make it a job. I'm just saying, or a career choice. Yeah. So do you do other photography besides ghost photography?
Absolutely. I do. In fact, before I was into ghost photography, I love to do landscapes. And honestly, I love to take a photo of anything that catches my eye. I love lightning photos. I've got lots of them. And just about anything interesting. It could be a flower. It could be an insect. Anything that looks good, I will take a photo of it.
I'll tell you, if you really like flowers and stuff, any one of the Virginia rest areas have some beautiful flowers in them. I'm just saying. I remember stopping at them and going, why can't other rest areas look this nice? Let's be honest. They're nice. So Illinois, don't even try to stop. They're all closed.
Wow. Okay.
So, New Mexico, it's hit or miss. I'm just telling you. we travel a lot. So everyone, I'd like to thank you so much for having Tim here tonight with us and asking him all the questions. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys will enjoy your 4th of July, because my next show would have been on the 4th of July. I'm not going to have one. I want you to go out and enjoy your show, or enjoy your fireworks, or however you're going to celebrate the 4th of July, Independence Day. I'm going to be celebrating Independence Day, probably watching fireworks around this time. So I hope you guys are all out there and you do that. So join me next week when my guest is Clarissa from Unveiled Paranormal. Not next week, the 11th, July 11th. Let me get my months right here. July 11th, Clarissa will be on, and we will be talking about her investigations and everything that she has to share about the paranormal event that she's going to be throwing in Indiana. So I'm looking forward to that. And stay tuned to the network for the other shows on the Bill of Rights Network. I'm going to have to make myself a list of what they are so that you guys will be able to stay tuned to those. And join us tomorrow night when I'm on Paranormal Nation Radio, Not So Normal, with Carl and Ron. And our guest is Lauren Moss tomorrow night. So we'll be talking to her about the paranormal and some other things. So I hope you guys had a great time. And thank you, Tim, so much. Do you have anything you want to tell everybody before we leave?
Yeah, if anybody's interested, I do have a Facebook group that people send in their own paranormal photos in, and if they want, I can sometimes work with the photo, sharpen it up or clear it up or brighten it up and put it up if they want to send it to me personally. And it's just validating my work to have other people send in their photos of similar things in similar places. That kind of backs me up that, yeah, this photography is real. Paranormal photography is not something that's done in Photoshop. It really exists.
And you don't need one of those ghost apps on your phone to take paranormal pictures.
No.
I hate those things. So
you could tell your listeners to turn off the flash, and it will go to usually a 3-second delay if it's dark out. You have to hold the camera still because otherwise you're going to get nothing but blur. And a lot of times you can get a good paranormal photo just with, say, an iPhone 11 or 12.
And do you suggest that they take more than one picture at a time?
Absolutely. Take multiple photos because usually the apparition will be there and gone in a split second. And so that's kind of your proof that it was actually paranormal and possibly not a person or anything else.
Well, thank you for that tip. And I'm going to tell you guys all good night, and I will see you tomorrow night and on July 11th. Thank you and have a great night.